Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GDS side event. My name is Anna Bulayeva, and I am from UNICEF Disability section. Let me walk you through some housekeeping rules. Now, I'm going briefly to explain you what are the features of the webinar we have today. This webinar is being recorded. There's international interpretation, language interpretation in French and Spanish, and real-time captioning in English. Please use CC button on your screen will enable the captions. If you need captions in different windows and languages, French, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Chinese, please see the link in the chat. We're going to post it in a few minutes. Kindly take a few seconds to enable the language of your choice in the language options again on the bottom of your screen. There will be option to mute original audio. Please do not select this option. If you do, you might miss some part of the audio. Let's take a 10 seconds so you can select the language of your choice in the language option. Should you have any questions to the panelists, we're kindly asking you to use a Q&A option. Our team is monitoring Q&A option as well as a chat, and we'll do our best to respond to questions throughout the course of the event. We will have a time for Q&A right after the presentations. We are also asking all the speakers to please stick to the time and speak slowly to allow enough time for interpreters and card experts to follow you. Should you have any challenges with accessibilities, please send a message to the host and we'll do our best to resolve the issues. Now, let's start our discussion. I would like to invite Guler Coka from International Disability Alliance to moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. I'm very pleased to welcome you on this side event. My name is Guler Coka. I am the focal point for the International Disability Alliance. As you may know, on Monday, we have been going around the world with the Youth Global Disability Summit. That was the first ever global summit for, by, and with youth with disabilities. It was a virtual world tour that started at midnight Europe time and finished at midnight on the following day. So we could spend Valentine's Day all together in this great event where we started by the Pacific and went to Asia and then to Europe and MENA, and then to Africa, and then to the Americas. Each region has been discussing, choosing, preparing their session where each regional topic that was of interest in that area was raised by speakers with disabilities, youth with disabilities from that region. In between each session, we had some roundtable on more cross-cutting issues. I hope that you could come to the event. As you may know, during that event, we have also been adopting the Charter for Change. It's a charter that was prepared by youth with disabilities worldwide in order to address some recommendations to the stakeholders on issues, concerns, ideas that were and are important to us, youth with disabilities. So we decided that it was great, of course, to have this global event for us and by us with ourselves, with many youth with disabilities from the world, from each region of the world. But we also wanted to raise our topics and concerns during the actual Global Disability Summit. And that's why we have organized this side event. We are very happy to welcome all of you. Today, we have different objectives for this session with great speakers. So today we are here to actually discuss the inclusion of youth with disabilities in organizations of persons with disabilities. We also want to share experience and lessons learned on the collaboration of youth in organizations of persons with disabilities and share perspectives on strengthening support by NGOs, governments, and UN agencies to improve the work with youth with disabilities and support capacity building initiatives with youth again. So the first speaker on our list is Jose Maria Vieira from the International Disability Alliance, where he's the advocacy director. And he'll be invited. So Jose, you are invited to talk about how IDA is supporting organizations of persons with disabilities to be more inclusive of youth with disabilities and the importance of having youth in associations. Jose, you have the floor.
Guler, I believe Jose is joining us in a few minutes. Maybe we can move to the next speaker. That's okay.
Okay, no problem. That's fine. Do we have Betty here or not yet? Because I thought she was going to join a bit later as well. So I don't know if Betty is here.
Not yet.
Okay, that's fine.
She's
sorry, Betty is already here.
She is. Hi,
I'm
Betty.
here.
Okay, that's perfect. Then I'm gonna briefly introduce Betty before passing her the floor. Thank you, Betty, for joining. So Betty Najjemba is from Uganda, from the African Disability Forum, as a DPO, Disabled Person Organization, engagement officer. So Betty is a deaf Ugandan, an accountant by profession, a disability rights advocate by heart, as I like to say. She's an alumni of the IDA Bridge CRPD SDGs training, which she'll be also talking about and presenting us. And she works for, as I said, for the African Disability Forum as a national OPD engagement officer, but she also has been the ADF focal point of the East African region for monitoring the CRPD and SDGs. And she also has been a training and learning officer, coordinator, for the Bridge CRPD SDGs training, both in Uganda and Tanzania. So Betty has many things to share with us. So without waiting more, I'll give the floor to you, Betty.
Thursday, February 17th.
yes.
Oh, sorry. Before I was on mute, sorry. What I was trying to say, thank you so much for introducing me as Betty. I'm very glad to be here. But moving forward, I'm requesting maybe you repeat the question.
Yes.
No problem. You repeat the question on what I'm going to share.
Betty, for you, the question is like, we would like to know if you could share with us some experience of your trajectories into the disability rights movement, how you started to be more involved in your countries, how you got to know the bridge mechanism that's of IDA. If you could talk about your different experiences and evolution into the disability rights movement, in order to serve as inspirational for also other youth with disabilities who could watch us today.
Right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Betty Najjemba. Today, I'm here with my sign language interpreter, Yusuf Senyomo. That's the reason as why you're hearing a voice of a gentleman in the background, but I'm a lady. Now, to share my experience within the disability movement, and also as a youth with a disability, as a woman who is deaf. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to inform the youth with disabilities. For a long time, we have been left behind within the movements. Many things that are rotating around us, or are rotating around engagements, youth with disabilities are left behind. I want to inform you something that is drastically changing over time. From my experience, when I started joining the disability movement, I had nothing like experience, not even knowing about the CRPD, not even about the advocacy idea, but I would love to appreciate the disability movement. That is to mention the International Disability Alliance idea, the Africa Disability Forum, the National Union of Persons with Disabilities, briefly NUDIPO. We have the National Association of the Deaf, UNAD. Because of all those that I've mentioned, they have played a big role in nurturing we as the youth. Personally, as coming out as an example, because I recall many opportunities that were available. I used to volunteer. The training opportunities, I was part of the volunteers. And with those, they tried to shape me as a youth. And that's why I'm now becoming a resourceful person in different technical areas. For example, the different knowledge that I received from the bridge, from the SDGs, from the bridge CRPD and SDGs. This was very important because the different approaches, the criteria which they followed, I made sure that any person is not left behind. Being a youth, the underrepresented categories, for example, persons who are deafblind, persons with intellectual disability, the psychosocial disability, to mention but a few, but not to leave anyone behind. That's what I would love to appreciate. And also I recommend programs like of the same, like the bridge program, anywhere, to be happening anywhere, not to only me alone, but even others, other fellow youth who would love to benefit from the program. Because it's from that program, not only on technical knowledge, but also confidence as a youth in the areas of economic empowerment. Because it is through different advocacy structures that one can get forward. Also, I'd love to inform that when a youth with a disability, when an opportunity comes your way, that is a way through that you can raise your capacity in different areas. So I'd love to inform that on the bridge program, always focus on capacity building of different persons in different countries, different regions, because we have so far a number of circles within the bridge circles. We have a number of bridge circles, sorry. For example, Uganda, we have Tanzania, as said, before being a coordinator. We have in Nigeria, and also we have Asia. So many of them. I would love to appreciate, because that one acts as a path through for the youth. And as of now, I have a lot of experience in the areas of advocacy, attained a number of jobs because of that. It's because of bridge. The experience that I got from there We were taught advocacy more in the areas at the workplaces, the skills at the workplaces, and many others to mention. Now, to move forward, another thing I would love to talk about, how can OPDs include youth with disabilities in their programmings? Because basically, if you bring OPDs and developing partners, if they bring closer youth with disabilities in their programs, maybe in the areas of development, in the areas of designing different projects, very important, it is part of building the capacity of the youth with disabilities. Also, I propose if we have more programs in capacity building, but specifically bridge, it is very helpful for the youth to develop their capacities in different areas. So if each country or region has got a wing, a youth wing,
audio settings button ready. Stop my video. Audio mute. Currently unmuted. OK button.
Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, sorry for that.
No worries.
Through that. Okay, to move forward. Sorry, now, if we have a youth wing in different countries under different OPDs, then it means it can help to build together different youth with different categories of disabilities, and also bring together as a team, establish different programs. For example, volunteering programs, trainings, because those ones, they will help them more. Because also from my experience as a trainer, and also as a, from my experience as a trainer and also a coordinator for Bridge for Uganda and Tanzania, I have observed that a number of youth have different capacities, have different skills, which are ready to be put into development. So if partners do support us, then it means we can put in our skills into use and we can develop them. I think with that, I can stop here, but thank you much for hearing from me. And maybe if I'm being given another opportunity, then I can continue more with the discussion. Thank you so much. I hand over back to you.
Thank you so much, Betty, for your inspiring experience, both as a learner and as a trainer. It was really insightful for all of us and other youth with disabilities who don't know the bridge mechanism yet and are not aware of the actual disability rights movement and of their opportunities to be involved there. So thank you. It was very, very inspiring. Do we have Jose connected now?
Yes, I'm here, Guler.
Super. So I'm gonna pass the floor to Jose just now to talk to us about what ARDA is putting in place to support youth with disabilities to be integrated into organizations of persons with disabilities. Thank you very much, Jose. You have the floor.
Thank you, Guler. Dear friends and colleagues, let me first extend our sincere gratitude to the organizers of this side event. And what I just said is not a formal recognition and appreciation of the work put it for this side event, but really inside comment regarding the importance of having more events like this. If there is something that we have learned over the last 3 days, is that what we thought it was a movement that was starting, that it was shaping up, that was something not totally accurate. We, after the Youth GDS Summit, understood that the youth movement is already a movement itself, a movement with all the different features, a movement that has recognized the importance of coming together, a movement that has realized that we need to do more advocacy work through our representative organizations, a movement that has realized that they do not need the other people of the movement to make their voice heard, but actually a movement that has its own way of understanding and operating in regards to the disability rights agenda. And of course, this is nothing new, what I'm saying, but I think with the Youth Summit on Monday, we have reached a point where, first of all, we cannot go back to the past. And second, that much more is needed in order to enable those who came together and organized the Youth Summit to even go farther. And actually, in this kind of two-direction strategy, which means what we have done so far and what else is needed, I would like just to share a few things from IDA's perspective when it comes to youth and the engagement of young people in the disability rights movements. First of all, you know that one of the main characteristics of IDA, it's part of the spirit of IDA, the mandate of IDA, is to strengthen the capacities of our members and member of our members. The unique characteristic of IDA, being a global OPD representing 14 regional and global OPDs, but at the same time, through those 14 members representing more than 1,100 national organization of persons with disabilities, give us the responsibility to create capacities among all the different levels, national, international, and regional, when it comes to organization of persons with disabilities. And that is definitely at the center of IDA's operation. The other element is definitely to advocate more for the inclusion of young persons with disabilities in our agenda. I said it in another event that we cannot keep saying that we need to inspire young people. Actually, it's the other way around. Young people have proven to be the one who inspire us to do more, simply to enable them to be more engaged. And that's another element, unique element of IDA, being the vehicle to young people for participating in different agendas. But if we have to merge those two elements that I just mentioned, and the question is how, I think the International Disability Alliance, of course, hearing from OPDs around the world, bringing different perspectives, paying attention, special attentions to underrepresented groups, has created the Youth Caucus. That, of course, is not just a platform to come together, but actually is the channel that has very unique elements. And of course, we do understand, we do recognize, we want to partner with other initiatives around young people with disabilities, especially those related to representation and meaningful participation. But the characteristic that this youth caucus has make it unique, firstly, because it's the result of the joint effort by persons with disabilities, most of them young. Second, because we carried out the flag of representation. Thirdly, because what we do it under the principles of participatory and meaningful engagement. And last but not least, because we promote the participation of those who are left farther behind. So the youth caucus that IDA has created is investing more and more with the support of a variety of donors, is actually not only a channel through which we expect to do more, but actually a clear proof that when you combine those 4 characteristics I just mentioned, the result is actually the GDS Youth Summit we all enjoyed this past Monday. So, Guler, in closing, I would only congratulate what you have achieved as IDA Youth Caucus. And again, IDA will remain always behind and supportive of this initiative, not only because by promoting this initiative, we will guarantee more engagement of OPDs, but because you are telling us what we have to focus on when it comes to advocating for the right of persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose. It was a great speech, actually, and we are actually very honored to have you with us in these crucial times as we are approaching towards the end of the Global Disability Summit. And of course, as IDA Youth Focal Point, I will be more than happy to welcome youth with disabilities into our caucus, but also to inform maybe stakeholders who would like to support this initiative in terms of capacity building and programs. We are always at your disposal. So my colleagues can maybe share our contact details in the chat. And I know that, Jose, you have to fly back to the actual and excitement crowd of the actual GDS, but it was really, really nice to hear from you. Thank you so much, actually, for your time and participation.
Thank you. I wish you all success for the rest of the event.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And as Jose said, actually, when he started his presentation, we have reached a point with the Youth Global Disability Summit that we cannot lose, we cannot go back. And also, I would like to share with you at the end of this session the link towards our charter for change. It's a call to action that we were talking at the beginning of this session that would be great for you to hear and to listen and to watch. So that will be shared very soon with everybody. So now we are going to Brazil, and I will introduce and pass the floor to the next speaker, who is Fernanda Santana. She's a woman from Brazil with autism, and she's also an activist and an activist in the disability movement. Today, she's the Secretary General of ABRACA, an organization of persons with autism, which is a member of RIADIS, of the Latin American network of persons with disabilities and their families. She's also a facilitator of the Bridge CRPD SDGs mechanism, and especially in the TOT training of trainers section. So she'll be sharing now. Fernanda, if you could please share with us your journey into the disability rights movement, your participation into the Bridge mechanism, and why it is important for youth with disabilities to get this experience and to have more exposure to some more international UN systems. So if you could share with us about this, it would be very great. Thanks.
Thanks, Guler. And hello, everyone. big hug, especially for my colleagues, Ridge. It's a pleasure to be here. So let me tell you a bit about my history on the movement. When I was 24, I started in the digital activism, like posting on social media. And 2 years later, I joined an OPD named ABRACA, the Brazilian Association for Action on the Rights of Autistic People. I knew nothing about real-life activism, civil society organizations, laws, the history of the movement, nothing. But they said it was fine. They listened to me, asked me for my opinion, and included me in projects. So I started to get more and more involved. They appointed me for an opportunity to travel and make a speech in a COSP-side event in New York. It was being, oh my God, so hard and intense, but I did it. Next year, the OPD's president said to me, Fernanda, you are doing so great. We will have the elections for the new board, and I think you could be the next president. First, I was like, sorry, what? Because I was literally the most inexperienced person in the entire OPD. And he was saying to me that I could lead. The OPD had a history and I recognized the name at national level. And like part of the team was composed by some of the OPD funders, people who had a huge experience in the movement, like 20 years of work, and they voted for me. Can you believe that? Sometimes I don't, but they saw my potential. I was 27, and the youngest OPD president in Latin America. Then, well, I started to access very formal spaces representing my association, and I understood very fast that I was an exception. Those formal spaces were almost exclusively accessed by old, white, middle-class people, and a lot of them were people without disabilities. It was very clear that all those spaces were already taken. I had to conquer my place, and my OPD supported me a lot on that. I remember that once I went to a regional event with an older colleague, and we met someone from another organization, someone that my colleague knew for a long time. And this colleague of mine said, let me introduce you, Fernanda. She's ABRACA's president, my president. And the other guy was like, oh, is she your boss now? Like mocking. And my colleague went very serious and said, yes, I'm under Fernanda's lead. And the guy was like, oh, it was so weird. So yes, that sort of thing happens. For some reason, people will expect young leaders to lead other young people, but not to lead everyone else. Today, I'm not the president anymore, but I'm still on the board along with a colleague that has, I think, 64 and another that has 25. And we work together in a very collaborative way. So yes, it is possible, but there is a decision to be made by the OPDs. Other activists need to give us space and opportunities. Having something like a youth council inside the DPO can be an interesting way of making sure everyone's listened to. Sometimes youth groups can create safe spaces and motivate new activists, which is pretty good. I never have been in the youth movement exactly, but I had a good short experience in this lab. And IDA's youth program and the bridge training have been super important to me as capacity building, to know how to talk in the same level using the same language. That's very important. I mean, Twitter and Facebook are great, but it's not enough. There are other places where we should be too. So don't be afraid. Your opinion is valid and important. Take your place. That's what I had to say today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to hear, Fernanda, about your experiences, and also even thank you for sharing some of the challenges that you met as a leader, as a young leader with disabilities. But also, it was great because you didn't do that without also providing us with the solution, which means that organizations of persons with disabilities should offer this space for us to be integrating them and to incorporate our concerns, ideas, and opinions within their agenda. So that's really, really clear, and thank you for that, actually. And it's also a great connection with the two next speakers, which are both part of the IDA Youth Committee. Actually, IDA is, as you may know, is an umbrella organizations of persons with disabilities. So as Jose explained, we have 14 members, of which are organizations led by persons with disabilities. And each organization has appointed one or two youth with disabilities to represent them in the IDA Youth Committee. So the IDA Youth Committee is actually I think the advisor of IDA in terms of youth projects, activities, and programs, webinars. It's everything. It was even at the heart of the creation of and of the design of the Youth Global Disability Summit. And I think that's very good, because we have two of IDA Youth Committee members here who are going to speak now. And it has really helped also the youth caucus that you could join to be bigger, to be also stronger, and to be more heard, because the caucus is a more informal, is a platform for youth with disabilities to be united, to exchange, and also to be united and to be as a whole, to be connected with other youth mainstream movements, because that's also very important for us as youth with disabilities. So thank you again for opening this discussion. So the next speaker is Iqbal Adrali. So we are now going to Pakistan. Today we're traveling a lot. He's a World Blind Union member in Pakistan. And Iqbal has also taken part in the bridge mechanism, which was a great experience for him, and he could make his own space and build more technical capacities, because after this he started working at more global level, and like, for example, for HI, humanity and inclusion in his country. So Iqbal, today we would like to invite you to talk about your participation as a World Blind Union member in the Bridge alumni mechanism. How did you start to participate in trainings? How did they strengthen your technical capacities? If you could explain us how this also had supported your trajectory, it would be very great. Ultimately, what would be great is also that other youth with disabilities can understand and get stimulated to be part of these mechanisms. So, Iqbal, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Guler, for such a great introduction, and I think thank you very much for the organizers for arranging this event after a very great, you can say, the youth with disabilities, the GDS youth on Monday. And I'm really happy because these type of events will really bring the capacities of youth with disabilities, their dynamism and their creativity to the universal agenda, and will let them that they are the agent of change for persons, for youth with disabilities in their organizations.
Level 1.
So as you mentioned, my name is Mohammed Iqbal, and I just I'm from Pakistan. I live in the northern areas of the country, and I started my career is a researcher in the disability domain, because I studied sociology, and then I moved into the social construction of disability, how disability is constructed, and that was a comparative analysis between the disabilities to understand that how the stigma is basically the notions of stigma is varying over the time in society from society in all those conditions. And then coupled with that, I joined the disability movement. I joined the Pakistan Association of the Blind, the country largest and oldest organization working for the rights of blind and partially sighted people in the country. Moving forward, I joined the World Blind Union as a youth representative in 2017, and then right after that, got the opportunity to join the IDA in writing the report, basically for the to write and compile the report, for the shadow report and the alternative report for the implementation of 2030 program in line with the CRPD. So in that connection, my trajectory is just on the two wheels. One to go with the development and this is the human right perspective, and then the training understanding for. Then I have got the opportunity to join as the BRIC CRPD SDGs alumni in 2019 in South Asia cycle. And then I got the opportunity to join in several trainings that I will talk about. But I'm trying to come back to the alternative report process, where I have experienced the real experiences of the OPDs, and specifically in their involvement and how they're involving the youth with disabilities in their processes. So alternative disabilities. Level 0, there are some observations. There are some observations that I have basically, I felt in the process, because there was a lot of interviews and questionnaires and many things were involved basically, and I've conducted an interview interview with the 76 organizations across the country in that particular processes. Level 1, they have no or little understanding. So the first thing that that they have a little knowledge about the young generation, about for those organizations who are not involving, basically this is for those organizations who are not involving youth with disabilities. So I've seen some gaps about the youth with disabilities. Level 1. They have no or little understanding. So they have no little knowledge about the young generation and of their issues, specifically, like for example, what to do, where we have to promote the braille literacy, and where we have to come with the technological development. Secondly, they don't know how to plan and respond to the new trend. And secondly, they were not involved. They were not aware how to adopt the trends, the global trends for the disability regarding the youth with disabilities. They have barriers in achieving the third problem that they have is basically that they have barriers for the achievement of the progressive realization of the human rights for the youths, because once the person with disability has gone out of the schools, OPDs were not involving youth with disabilities. They were forever go out of the schools, and that was the weak link in those organizations. On the top of that, no youth equals no second line leadership. And the top of that, what is basically there is when there is no youth, there will be no second line leadership in those organizations. As a result, the operationalization of the principle of leave no one behind and the movement principle, nothing about us without us, is just a dream for them. So what to overcome this? I have moved to the trainings, the BRIC CRPD SDGs training, and the inclusion, the social protection, inclusive social protection and inclusion of persons with disability trainings with IDA, which is really amazing, and because I understand the different dynamics of the disability movement and the development in humanitarian processes. And a number of webinars that I have involved in regarding the disability, including youth with disabilities, which is actually increased my capacity. Level 0, level 1. For instance, changing my perspective as an outsider. So, for example, how it's changed my capacity. First thing that for instance, changing my perspective to understand the different disability constituencies from their perspective, not as an outsider to assume the things for them, because this is really a different perspective. When you are just making the things for them, and not from them, it's creating a lot of difficulties for them to adopt.
As an outsider, both the trainings have advanced my knowledge in the field.
The second thing that the trainings have advanced my knowledge in the domains of human rights, development, and humanitarian context, which really helped me in my job, as Guler mentioned, is in the HI, is a disability, gender, and age specialist, to work on the intersectionality, that when they are intersecting one another, how it actually create the vulnerabilities for persons with disabilities throughout of their life cycle.
Humanitarian level 0. They also increase my knowledge and skills to support include.
They also, the trainings were really important because it's enabled me to support the inclusive social protection programs for persons with disabilities, like, for example, how to measure the disability related cost, how to do the work when there is an incapacity to work, how to change the perspective from the incapacity to work to person is not a position to the work.
True life cycle approach, level 1. They have enabled me to deal with issues related.
And they have enabled me to deal with the issues like intersectionality, as I mentioned.
Designing projects and monitoring.
And designing the project and monitoring and evaluating those projects for the intersectionality perspective.
Both build my capacity in training, including design, delivery.
And it's build my capacity in trainings, delivery, designing, and follow-up.
Let's talk about how it has.
And now let's talk about how it is actually.
Let's talk about how it has enhanced my knowledge to support
how it has enhanced my knowledge to support DPOs in Pakistan. So I got the opportunity to connect with the friends from the different disability constituencies, and it realizes me the Helen Keller quote. It says, "Nothing alone we can do so little; together we can do a lot." And that is the reality, because when you are connected with the cross disability people and they are moving themselves, working for themselves.
I was able to involve DPS in several projects,
and therefore I was able to involve the different organizations of persons with disabilities in different processes. For example, such as disability right advocacy, and in formulation of the accessibility task force in the light of the new legislations held in the province of Sindh in Pakistan. And most importantly, that I have to mention here, that I have formulated a number of DPOs in the refugees camps so that the refugees with disabilities can support themselves through the DPOs.
Level 0. Now, to stimulate other youth to participate.
And the last, I will a little bit talk about that how we can stimulate the youth with disabilities to support in the DPOs, or how DPOs can be inclusive of youth with disabilities.
Youth with disabilities, level 1. It is needed to inform DPO.
It is needed now. There are some sort of recommendation that I would be mentioning here, that how the DPOs can be inclusive of youth with disabilities. So first, we need to inform the organizations of persons with disabilities about the benefits of inclusion of persons with disabilities in their processes. We need to give them that how it can be created, like the diversity in their work, and how it can be create opportunities for the innovation and research when you are involving the youth with disabilities. Because what I have seen, that, for example, when you're not doing the youth with disabilities, the organizations of persons with disabilities are a bit of on the distinct side, because they are not connected directly with the institutions, like institutions of education and employment agencies. Therefore, planning for inclusive education and planning for the inclusive employment is a bit of a dream.
Collect success stories from around the world.
Now, the second thing that we need to do, that how we can encourage the DPOs, is to collect the success stories for the organizations of persons with disabilities, for the documentation and dissemination of the good practices around the world.
And dissemination of supporting the youth network within the.
Now, the third thing that we need, there are a little bit that we need to stress upon, that we need to create a youth network inside of the disability movement, not so that we can encourage youth with disabilities and their respective cultures as an agent of change.
Introduce and support exchange program.
Now, and the third thing that I want from the stakeholders, that you need to introduce the exchange program for youth with disabilities, so that the youth from one region, from the developed countries, go to the developing countries, and from the developing countries to the developed countries, to understand the one another culture and how the youth with disabilities of one region can be supported in another region.
Encourage donors to invest in.
And now, in the last point from my side is we need. I ask, and my request from the donors to invest in the
Page 2,
internship and fellowship for persons with disabilities, so that they can increase their earning in learning.
Sport and recreation.
Sport and recreation, so that they can show to the world that, you know, that they can be participated like the youth without disabilities in the different processes.
Innovation and advocacy for youth with disabilities.
And innovation in advocacy for youth with disabilities so that they can participate on the equal basis with others. I think those points will give them the courage, and, you know, it will create a space for all of us that we can be inclusive of youth with disabilities, and our organization will be inclusive of youth with disabilities. And together we will be achieving the principle of leave no one behind and the movement principles of nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Iqbal. It was very inspiring, and thank you for giving some concrete recommendations to organizations of persons with disabilities on how to be more youth inclusive. I think that was really, really insightful, and also for explaining that as long as this is not fully done, the principle of leaving no one behind can hardly be fulfilled. So that was very good. Thank you so much about that, Iqbal. And actually, I think that the next speaker would be happy to build on your great recommendations. So I will now give the floor to Antonio Palma, who is our last speaker for today. So Antonio is part of our youth committee in the International Disability Alliance. He has been very active and participating to many activities and encounters. So Antonio, could you share with us some experiences that you could have about your journey to the disability rights movement, but also build on the recommendations that were made by Iqbal regarding this?
Hola. Siempre me gusta iniciar saludando.
I always like to greet people when I start my presentation. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending when you are in the world. As my colleagues, as I said, my name is Antonio Palma, and I started off working for organizations of people with disabilities. I started off with an organization of the university where I study, and that's how I started off in this process, this journey. And then I went to another organization, another national organization for blind people in my country, which is Guatemala. And at the moment, I'm secretary of human rights of RIADIS, which is the Latin American network of NGOs of persons with disabilities and their families. As we've been listening during this conference, very interesting conference, I'd like to point out, the barriers that we young people face are varied, multiple and varied, and not only these are imposed by the environment, sometimes they're imposed by the attitude. As my colleague previously said, lots of people don't believe that we have the capacity to be able to participate fully because they situate us in other spaces, different spaces, for example, in sports and leisure. And these are spaces where we, young people, youth with disabilities, we also participate here, as do people with other ages. So recreation and sports, as Article 30 of the Convention indicates, is a basic element among our rights. I'm referring to people with disabilities, but the youth also have capacities, as we've seen, and as my colleagues have also demonstrated, to do things inside these ODPs. One of the positive experience which I've participated, which I've took part, is in the Association of the Blind of Guatemala, that took place in the Organization of Blind People in part of Guatemala. My voice was listened to in an equal way. And not everyone has the same opportunity or the same luck. Other people don't have the same luck or opportunities I had, but I think that the youth with disabilities, we also have to take some commitments, have to take on board certain commitments. We have to seek We have to train, we have to read, we have to investigate, research. I think now in the virtual world, this gives us lots of opportunity to be able to learn and learn. It might vary person per person. The way we train, it all depends on the access to devices, etc. However, learning is not only reading, it's also important to learn if you participate. So as youth with disability, it's very important for us to participate, and we do not feel fear, because sometimes we're concerned, we're afraid that other people who are participating have more experience than us because they are more older than us. They have more experience because they have more experience. They sometimes say, how are you going to do that? When they're that movement in ODPs, there are people that have worked for the ODP for 20, 30 years, and you've only been here for 5 years in this ODP. So it's very difficult for you. But I believe that we cannot feel fear. We have to feel capable of being able to participate and feel free, as my colleague said, to express our ideas. Not all ideas are perfect, obviously, but those ideas can be perfected with the collaboration, the cooperation of other people. These ideas can be modified, and that's a huge experience I've had as well. That many times I express an idea, and maybe the idea could be improved, and something else that the youth with disabilities, something else we have to do is we have to listen actively and not believe that our idea is the best idea, because sometimes that's an error. I think that all ideas can be improved upon. In my country, for example, there's a saying that says that two heads think better than one, and that's absolutely true. Sometimes working as a team, that means teamwork is important, and teamwork not only among youth with disabilities, but among people with all people of different ages, both with disabilities and without disabilities, and different intersectionality of the with disabilities, so that ideas can be could take into account all different points of view, respecting the human rights of everyone who will be affected or benefit from all this intersectionality, or all this teamwork. So in order to finish off, I think what I would like to convey, what I'd like to say is that please do not feel fear when you participate. Do not feel fear to express your ideas. Do not feel fear to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Many times we all make mistakes. We're human. But the secret is to continue and to participate in different spaces, not only spaces spaces that have been assigned to us, but we also have to participate in other spaces, because that way we'll be able to learn and gain experience that other people have. Not everyone started off with the experience they have now. They all must have started in a point where they had no experience. So I encourage you all to participate. I'm a youth, encourage the youth to participate different events, activities, to express your ideas, to take risks in different moments of their lives, and we should all work together for the people with disabilities, because we cannot allow that this work carried out in the past to be lost or to be paralyzed. We as youth have to work from now onwards to continue with this route, because we are youth are not only the future, we are actually the present. And I think that most of us are young people here, but it's also important to open up different spaces among the organizations for us, so that the youth would be able to participate and work in these spaces to demonstrate that the youth not only play, but the youth also can change the world and we can work hand in hand with the rest of the people to obtain the full rights for people with disability, and the sustainable development goals of 2030, Agenda 2030. And that's what I had to say at the moment. Many thanks for your attention, and greetings.
Thank you so much, Antonio. Really like what you said and what you call the fear of participation that youth with disabilities can feel when it comes to integrate new spaces, new environments, and new organizations. The fear of not knowing, not being able, not being confident, not being sure. I think that's really something that could touch youth with disabilities who could be watching us today. But it also very true what you said. I think we don't start a new experience with the knowledge that we have after 6 months of working in that experience. I think if we start something 6 months ago, and today we obviously have more experience than when we started. So I think that's very true, I think, and should be in the thoughts of youth with disabilities who could feel some of the emotions that you raised. And it's also good that organizations of persons with disabilities can actually think of that, prevent that from happening, creating safe spaces and welcoming spaces, opportunities, committees, is very true, and strategies as well. And that's why we actually thank UNICEF for supporting us to actually open these doors, these spaces, these discussions like the one that we're having now. It's actually a very good platform for us youth with disabilities to exchange, but also to be heard at more global level by decision makers, because the support that we might have is always much welcome. And we have actually some time to take comments or questions, so it would be a pity not to use it, and we don't like to use crumbs of any time that we are given when we can exchange about this crucial topic. So I don't know if maybe my colleagues could read some of the comments that we might have had in the chat or questions. And if you can always raise questions now, it's not too late. You can write them in the chat box. You can raise your hand and we can give you the floor so you can directly ask your question. So please feel welcome to do that.
Thank you so much, Guler. This is Anna speaking. I will support you with this. We have several comments in the chart. We have one specific question to Betty, and Said also raised his hand. He already mentioned in the chat, but we can definitely unmute the mic, and Said, please feel free to speak. So maybe we'll start with a couple of comments in the chat. Mani Petit from Tanzania, she highlighted the need to empower youth with learning disabilities, specifically with Down syndrome, to be self-advocates like many other African countries. Down syndrome is not much heard of, let alone having their basic human rights. If they could be empowered, they would be able to speak for themselves with mentors, friends, who many have other disabilities like those with albinism and other physical disabilities. Thank you so much, Mani, for this comment. Participants, please feel free to raise your hands and we'll get to it now. Also, Wim from Sudan highlighted that young leaders with disabilities in developing countries, for example, like in South Sudan, has a number of problems with specifically participation on equal basis with others, even for people with disabilities from industrialized countries, such as restrictions and discrimination in education and work, deprivation opportunities, and language barriers. Thank you so much for this. Also, Mufaq from Iraq highlighted that many young activists not included in facilitation for youth with disabilities. Okay, thank you for those comments. We have a specific question to Betty from Peter Oching, if that's okay. Betty,
yeah.
feel free to answer now, or you can answer via email. All the speakers, in case we won't have time to answer now, we also have email addresses of everyone who sent the questions. So Betty, would you mind to come on the camera? The question from Peter is, how has OPDs in Uganda, like National Union of Disabled Persons in Uganda, nurtured youth with disabilities organizations like Show Abilities Uganda to become independent and promote their rights of young people? So basically, how OPDs in Uganda could nurture and promote rights of young people with disabilities.
Thank you so much for that question from Peter. I do appreciate it. Actually, I remember in my submission, I talked about the youth wings. So going back to the question, here in Uganda, we have the National Union of Persons with Disabilities of Uganda, and it is the national umbrella for all disabled persons organization, the OPDs. So we have a youth wing, which is Show Abilities Uganda. It is for the youth. So this wing, for a long time, it has empowered the youth with disabilities, but in different areas, more especially in economic empowerment that has been muchly focused on through different programs, and has centered to see that youth with disabilities attain vocational skills. At the same time, give them equipment as a startup capital to see that they can promote their businesses. So with this youth wing, capacities of youth have been developed, and also advocacy in different areas. But as we know that youth with disabilities, some youth with disability, youth wings with disabilities, that they do exist, but with a limitation in resources. So Show Abilities Uganda has handled a few issues in a few districts around Uganda because of the few programs that they have as of now and the different support that they have as of now. But with the different funds once attained, I know they can ably support and also come up with different opportunities for the youth. But much as of now, a lot of volunteering is happening. Thank you so much. Hope I have answered the question, Peter.
Thank you, Peter and Betty, for this great question. I think that we can take another question. Maybe we have time. So,
thank you, Guler. Thank you, Betty. Great response. And Peter also highlighted. Thank you, Betty.
Yes.
Said, would you? We saw your comments in the chat. Would you like to speak up? We are just unmuting your mic. Okay, Said, if you would like, please unmute your mic at any point. Otherwise, either colleagues already responding via chat. We have one more question. Guler, we have one more question from, and I think this is a question to all the speakers. Please feel free who would like to answer. From Laurie Wells. How can governments best reach out to youth with disabilities and hear their opinions and views? And please, we also encourage the panelists to answer this question in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Do we have panelists who would like to explain us how, or give some suggestions or ideas on how governments could reach out to youth with disabilities for better consultation of their ideas in policy making?
Sorry, Guler, can you come again?
Yes. Do you want to try to answer? The question was about how governments can reach out to youth with disabilities. So I guess that for consultation purpose.
Yeah, so I think that the most important is basically that, you know, our government should start working alongside with the organizations of persons with disabilities, because that's the place where youth with disabilities can involve, you know, the right place for the consultation. And the reason is that why the organizations of persons with disabilities, the important aspect of the policy making, an important aspect of the involvement of youth with disabilities for in the policy making is to understand the things from their perspective. We need some sort of person-centered, you know, policy making, so that, you know, the youth with disabilities is able to help themselves in the future. So like, for example, in this case, if we are working for persons with disabilities, which means that we will be always having a gap in our in our work. But if we want to promote the work for youth with disabilities by the youth with disabilities, it will create the opportunities for persons with disabilities, for youth with disabilities to support themselves, and that will be a huge, basically, a point of innovation for the government, so that the 15% of the population will help the government that how they want to be enabled themselves and how they can contribute to the politics, economy, education, and many other in the field of life.
Thank you very much. Do we have another panelist who want to take 30 seconds to express himself or herself about this topic?
This is Betty speaking.
Yes.
To add something, for me as Betty, the government of Uganda should support the youth. You know, government has got different mainstream programs in each country. That's what I know. We do appreciate. But we want to see that in those programs, we have the inclusivity part of it, to include the youth. Let us move out of that box of having the special programs targeting only the youth. But we want to see all the programs that are available. Youth with disabilities are part of them. So I think within that way of involving the youth in those programs, for example, if we talk about employment or economic empowerment, the areas of health, and areas of education, let us see all of them, or let us propose to the government to see that all the programs are inclusive in nature. Let us have that inclusive approach, a mechanism to see that we are available in those. Talking before, let us work with closely with the DPOs. You never know, we can give in ideas on how the government can ably put into consideration the youth with disabilities in the programs. Because that is very clear. It is very clear within the CRPD Article 4.3, where Article 33.3 also says that we must consult the youth, the organizations for disability, to see that different issues are captured. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Betty, for addressing such powerful words to end this great session. Time has again been against us. We would continue for very long, and actually we thank you so much, IDA, UNICEF, and the Atlas Alliance for opening this space as an extension to the Youth Global Disability Summit that we had on Monday. And I want to thank you, everybody, and also Anna, if you want to close this session, I can hand over to you. But just for my side to say that I thank you all of you for for being here, for giving your time to take part in this discussion, all the panelists, all my colleagues as well, all the organizers, everyone for having organized this great session. And thank you, of course, a lot to all the participants. We will leave you with the call for action that we adopted during the Youth Global Disability Summit. So the link is shared in the chat box. So we invite you to not leave this session before opening this link and watch and listen and read the charter that is in this link. Thank you so much, and over to you, Anna, for the closing remarks.
Guler, thank you so much for the excellent facilitation. You did fantastic work, and on all panelists, your experiences were so rich. Thank you for sharing with us and really focusing on solution. That's exactly what we need. To all the participants, we want also to highlight that the video recordings in different languages, together with chat, transcript for this event, so you have all the access to emails that were shared, will be available next week. We have all your email addresses, and we'll share with you follow-up email. Thank you all. And of course, thank you for our wonderful international language interpreters and our translators, and great support from Kelly from Captions First. Thank you. Okay, the session is now closed. Have a good day, evening, and night, everyone. Bye-bye.